I'm Jason, 22, and I've spent 4 years killing myself to graduate summa cum laude from Stanford. When my parents called saying they were too tired to make the 5-hour drive for my graduation, I swallowed my disappointment. Until my Instagram feed exploded with photos my sister Rachel's spa day, my parents beaming beside her. The same day? The same damn day as my graduation. But I didn't say a word, not until they called my name as valedictorian, and I approached that podium with 4 years of unspoken words. Hey, before I continue, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If this story resonates with you at all, hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, what happened next changed everything. I grew up in a comfortable, upper-middle-class neighborhood in Sacramento. Our house was the one with the perfectly manicured lawn, the 2 luxury cars in the driveway, and the family that looked picture-perfect from the outside. My dad, Thomas, worked as a financial advisor, and my mom, Linda, ran a successful interior design business. We never wanted for anything, at least not materially. From the outside, we were the American dream. But inside those walls was a different story. My sister Rachel, 3 years younger than me, was the undisputed star of our family show. She was outgoing, pretty, and pursuing fashion design, a path that perfectly complemented my mother's aesthetic sensibilities. Rachel had this magnetic personality that drew people in, including our parents. She was the golden child, bathed in constant approval and attention. Then there was me, serious, academically inclined, more reserved. I was the kid with his nose in books, fascinated by economics and social systems. I was never the problem child, just forgettable somehow, existing in the periphery of my parents' attention. The pattern started early. When I was 8, I brought home a perfect math test, 100% with a gold star. My mom glanced at it while preparing dinner and said, "That's nice, Jason," before turning back to the stove. The next day, Rachel brought home a B in English, and they took her out for ice cream to celebrate her improvement. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, working on more math problems, while they were gone, feeling this hollow space in my chest. In 6th grade, I won the regional debate championship. My parents said they'd come, but Dad had a client emergency, and Mom needed to help Rachel prepare for a middle school fashion show. I accepted the trophy alone, scanning the audience for faces that weren't there. My debate coach drove me home. When I walked in, they were helping Rachel put the finishing touches on her designs, too busy to ask how it went. Christmas always made the disparity crystal clear. Rachel would unwrap designer clothes, electronics, concert tickets, whatever was trending that year. I'd get practical gifts, college reference books, a scientific calculator, dress shirts, useful things, never frivolous, never indulgent, nothing that said we see you as a person with desires beyond achievement. I'm not saying I was neglected. We had food on the table, a roof over our heads, and my parents paid for my activities. But there's a difference between providing and being present. They provided for me, but were present for Rachel. By high school, I'd given up seeking their approval. I channeled everything into academics, not for them anymore, but for me. I discovered that excellence was its own kind of freedom. When I was accepted to Stanford on a partial scholarship, I was thrilled. It was my ticket out, a chance to prove my worth to myself, if not to them. Rachel stayed local for college, attending an arts program, just 30 minutes from our parents' house. Every weekend they'd have brunch together. They'd visit her campus to see her projects. My mom even helped redesign her dorm room. Meanwhile, I came home for Thanksgiving my freshman year to find my bedroom converted into my mother's home office. "We didn't think you'd mind," she said. "You're never here anyway." College became my sanctuary. I built a life separate from my family dynamics. I found friends who valued me, professors who noticed my insights, a community where I didn't have to compete for basic recognition. I worked hard, double majoring in economics and political science, maintaining a perfect GPA, securing prestigious internships. Not to prove anything to my parents anymore, but because I'd discovered my passion. By senior year, I was thriving. I'd been selected for a fellowship, published a paper with a prominent professor, and secured a position as a teaching assistant. Then came the announcement that I'd been named valedictorian. It was the culmination of everything I'd worked for. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to hope that this finally would be the achievement that made my parents proud. I called them immediately after finding out. That's great, honey, my mom said, sounding distracted. Listen, can I call you back? Rachel's having a crisis with her final collection. 3 days before graduation, they called. I was expecting logistics, what time they'd arrive, where we'd meet. Instead, my dad cleared his throat. Jason, your mom and I have been thinking. It's a long drive up to Stanford, and with work being so busy. We're just exhausted, my mom chimed in. 5 hours each way is a lot, and finding a hotel this late. We're really sorry, but we think it's best if we sit this one out, my dad finished. You understand, right? It's just a ceremony. We're still proud of you. I gripped my phone so hard, my knuckles turned white, but I kept my voice steady. Sure, yeah, I understand. We'll celebrate when you come home, my mom promised. Maybe a nice dinner at that Italian place you like. After we hung up, I sat on my bed for a long time, staring at the wall. The valedictorian speech I'd been working on, full of gratitude and reflections on support systems, suddenly seemed hollow. But I revised it anyway, removing all mentions of family. I told myself it didn't matter. I was used to this. What I didn't know was that the real blow was still to come. Graduation morning dawned bright and clear. One of those perfect California May days where the sky stretches endlessly blue. I stood in front of my apartment mirror, adjusting my tie under the graduation gown. 4 years of work culminating in this moment, and I was getting ready alone. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, my best friend since freshman year. My parents want to adopt you for the day. Mom's bringing her good camera, and Dad's planning to embarrass me with childhood stories. You've been warned. I smiled despite the hollow feeling in my chest. Marcus's family had always been kind to me, including me in their visits and care packages. Tell them I accept the adoption, I texted back. But only if your dad promises to show the photos from your grunge phase. Marcus's quick response, absolutely not. Adoption offer rescinded. I laughed, grateful for the momentary distraction from the empty spaces around me. Other graduates had rooms full of family, helping them prepare, taking photos, fussing over their appearance. I had an empty apartment and a friend's borrowed family. With an hour to kill before I needed to report for the pre-ceremony lineup, I made coffee and scrolled through social media. A notification popped up that my sister had tagged our parents in posts. Without thinking, I tapped it. What loaded on my screen made my coffee cup freeze halfway to my mouth. There was Rachel wrapped in a plush white robe, cucumber slices over her eyes, getting a pedicure. The caption read, "Pre-finals stress relief with my biggest supporters. Number spay day number, best parents ever." I swiped to the next photo. My mother and Rachel getting matching facials. Another swipe. My father looking awkward but smiling in a massage chair. The timestamp 2 hours ago. My hands started shaking. The coffee sloshed over the rim of the cup, scalding my fingers, but I barely noticed. I kept scrolling through more photos. My parents and Rachel having champagne, my mother helping Rachel pick out nail colors. A group shot with Rachel's friends Brittany, Heather, and Kimberly, all raising mimosa glasses. Too tired to drive suddenly had a very different meaning. I set the coffee down before I could drop it, and walked to the bathroom on unsteady legs. The fluorescent light made my reflection look sickly pale. A wave of nausea hit me, and I gripped the edge of the sink. They hadn't been too busy or too tired. They had chosen Rachel's spa day over my graduation, over my valedictory speech. They had lied to me. It wasn't the first time they'd chosen her, but this was different. This was deliberate deception. This was them actively deciding that a spa day was more important than one of the biggest achievements of my life. I don't know how long I stood there, but suddenly Marcus was pounding on my apartment door. When I didn't answer, he used the spare key I'd given him. "Jason, we've got to go, man. They want all the speakers there early," for he stopped short when he saw me. "Whoa, you look like you've seen a ghost." Wordlessly, I handed him my phone, still open to Rachel's Instagram. Marcus scrolled through the photos, his expression darkening with each swipe. "Are you fucking kidding me? They told you they couldn't come because they were tired, and they're at a SPA with your sister." "Apparently." "This is bullshit." Marcus spat, handing the phone back to me. "Complete bullshit. You should call them out. Right now." I shook my head, a strange calm, replacing the initial shock. "Number, not now." Then when Jason, They've been doing this to you for years. I've watched it happen. There's never going to be a right time with people like this. I walked back to my bedroom and picked up the folder containing my valedictorian speech, the safe, polite, forgettable speech I'd prepared. You're right. There isn't a right time. I took the pages out and placed them on my desk, which is why I'm not going to call them. I'm going to do something else. Marcus watched as I took out a fresh notebook. What are you doing? Rewriting my speech. Now, we have to be there in 30 minutes. Then I better work fast. My hand was steady now as I began to write. The words came easily flowing from some deep place I'd kept carefully locked for years. We made it to the ceremony preparation area with 5 minutes to spare. Dr. Harrison, my academic advisor, noticed something was off immediately. Jason, are you all right? You look a bit pale. I'm fine, I lied. Just nervous. She didn't look convinced. Your family get in okay. They couldn't make it. Work emergency. The lie came automatically, a protective reflex developed over years. Dr. Harrison frowned. I'm sorry to hear that. But you know the ceremony is being live-streamed. They can watch you online. I nodded, a plan crystallizing in my mind. Yes, the live stream. That's good to know. As we lined up for the procession, I tucked my new speech into my robe pocket. My phone buzzed again, another Instagram notification. Rachel had posted a new story, my parents at an upscale restaurant raising glasses in a toast. The caption, celebrating early, so proud of my Fashion Warriors number finals week, number blessed. I turned off my phone and took my place in line. The die was cast. Stanford's graduation ceremony is an impressive spectacle under any circumstances. The main quad transformed into a sea of folding chairs decorated with cardinal red and white banners that snapped in the gentle breeze. Family members jostled for the best viewing positions, cameras and phones raised like periscopes. The excitement was palpable. Thousands of people celebrating thousands of individual journeys culminating in this shared moment. I observed it all with an odd sense of detachment, as if watching a movie of someone else's life. The jubilant graduates around me adjusted each other's caps, took selfies, and pointed out family members in the crowd. I went through the motions, smiling when appropriate, nodding at acquaintances, but feeling like I was operating from behind a pane of glass. As we processed in pomp and circumstance playing through the speakers, I found myself scanning the audience out of habit. Row after row of beaming parents, grandparents, siblings. Signs with graduates' names. Bouquets of flowers, ready to be bestowed. For a fleeting moment, I entertained the fantasy that my parents had changed their minds, that they'd driven up early this morning and were waiting to surprise me. Reality reasserted itself quickly. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Probably another social media update for my sister's celebration. I didn't check it. You good? Marcus whispered as we took our seats. He was sitting several rows behind me in the regular graduate section while I was positioned with the other speakers and special honorees near the front. Never better, I replied. And strangely, it wasn't entirely a lie. The shock and hurt were still there, but something else was building beneath them, a sense of clarity, of resolve. The ceremony began with the university president welcoming everyone. I only half listened to his remarks about tradition, excellence, and the bright futures ahead of us. Instead, I was mentally rehearsing my new speech, the one I'd written in a 20-minute frenzy of raw emotion. My phone buzzed again. This time I checked it. A text from Aunt Carol. So proud of you, Jason, wish I could be there. Grandma Elaine sends her love too. At least someone in my family remembered what day it was. I typed back a quick thank you. Another notification popped up, an email alert that I'd been tagged in a new Instagram post. Against my better judgment, I opened it. There were my parents and Rachel now at the restaurant's outdoor patio, Rachel opening a small gift box containing what looked like expensive earrings. The caption, early graduation present for my fashion star number, proud parents. Number, love my girl? Something shifted inside me. The hurt calcified into something harder, more defined. They weren't just missing my graduation. They were actively celebrating Rachel on the same day, giving her graduation gifts before she'd even completed her year. The disparity was so blatant it was almost comical. I put my phone away and straightened my shoulders. On stage, Various deans and faculty members were giving speeches, presenting honorary degrees recognizing special achievements. A distinguished alumna spoke about using our education to change the world. In another context, I would have been inspired. Today, her words washed over me like background noise. My mind kept flashing back to pivotal moments. Standing alone after debate tournaments, watching my parents cheer enthusiastically at Rachel's fashion shows. The Christmas mornings of practical gifts versus indulgent ones. My bedroom, converted to an office, while Rachel's was preserved like a shrine. And now, the Dean of Students announced, we come to the recognition of our highest academic achievers. My heartbeat accelerated. My moment was approaching. Each year, Stanford selects one graduating senior who has demonstrated exceptional academic excellence, leadership, and contribution to the university community. This year's valedictorian maintained a perfect grade point average while publishing original research, serving as a teaching assistant, and volunteering with first-generation college students. The audience quieted in anticipation. It is my great pleasure to introduce this year's valedictorian, Jason Alexander Mitchell. Applause erupted around me. I stood, adjusted my cap, and made the long walk to the podium. Each step felt both impossibly heavy and strangely liberating. 4 years of work of proving myself to myself had led to this moment. As I reached the podium, I saw the small red light on the camera, positioned to capture the speeches for the live stream. Somewhere in Sacramento, my parents might watch this recording later, if Rachel's activities left them time. I placed my hastily written speech on the podium, took a deep breath, and looked directly into the camera's eye. The moment of truth had arrived. The microphone amplified the sound of my breathing as I stood there, facing thousands of expectant faces and one red recording light. I had prepared for this moment for weeks, crafting a safe, inspirational address about perseverance and gratitude. That speech was now folded in my pocket, replaced by raw truth, written in a moment of clarity. President Williams' distinguished faculty, fellow graduates, families and friends, I began my voice steadier than I expected. It's an honor to stand before you today. The traditional opening drew approving nods. I continued with the expected thank yous to professors and administrators. So far, so conventional. I could see people already settling in for what they assumed would be another forgettable graduation speech. Then I paused, looked directly into the camera, and pivoted. But there are some people who couldn't be here today. A ripple of anticipation moved through the audience. They sensed the shift in my tone. We've all had different journeys to reach this moment. Some of us had cheering sections every step of the way. Others learned to walk the path alone. I gripped the edges of the podium. I want to speak to those of you in the second category, the ones who achieved despite absence rather than because of presence. The crowd grew utterly silent. I could feel Marcus's supportive gaze from the graduate section. Success is often portrayed as a community effort. No one succeeds alone, we're told. But some of us did. Some of us had to. Some of us sent text updates that went unanswered, celebrated small victories in empty rooms, and learned that the sound of our own voice saying, "I'm proud of you," had to be enough. I saw heads nodding among the graduates. My words were landing with those who shared similar experiences. There's a particular kind of strength that comes from achievement without witness. When you accomplish something remarkable and turn to find no one watching, you face a choice: diminish your joy to match their absence, or amplify it to fill the space they left empty. My voice grew stronger, more confident. I chose the second path, and to everyone here who has done the same, who has fought for recognition that never came, who has shouted achievements into a void, who has learned to be their own witness, I see you. We see each other. The first murmurs of approval began scattered applause from those who connected with the message. Today isn't just about receiving a degree. It's about recognizing that you are the author of your own story, that your worth isn't determined by who shows up on graduation day, but by the countless unseen moments that brought you here. I leaned slightly forward, my eyes still on the camera. To everyone who didn't show up, who was too busy, too tired, or too preoccupied to witness the milestones that mattered to you, this one's for you. The words hung in the air for a moment before I continued. Not as an accusation, but as a declaration of independence. Your absence taught me self-reliance. Your silence taught me to speak louder. Your indifference taught me to burn brighter. Scattered applause broke out, growing steadily. Fellow graduates, as we leave Stanford today, some of us will continue to navigate worlds where our achievements go unwitnessed by those whose recognition we once craved. I want you to know that it's okay to acknowledge that pain. It's real. It matters. I took a deep breath. But I also want you to know this. You are enough. Your accomplishments are valid whether they're celebrated or not. And sometimes the people who should have been your biggest supporters give you the unintended gift of becoming your own. The applause was building now, graduates rising to their feet. So today, I'm not just celebrating my degree. I'm celebrating my journey to this podium. A journey that taught me that the absence of applause doesn't diminish the performance. That empty seats don't make the stage less yours. That unread messages don't make your words less meaningful. I was speaking from a place of absolute truth now, my prepared notes forgotten. Look around you. For every person whose biological family isn't here, there are chosen families forming in the spaces between. Find them. Build them. Be them for someone else. By now, most of the graduates were standing, many openly wiping tears. The truest measure of our Stanford education isn't the knowledge we've accumulated, but the resilience we've developed, the ability to face empty spaces and fill them with purpose, to hear silence and fill it with our own voice saying, I did this. It matters. I matter. The standing ovation was spreading to the family sections now. Marcus was on his feet, fist raised in solidarity. As we go forward from this place, let's carry that resilience with us. Let's remember that our worth isn't determined by who witnesses our journey, but by our courage to keep walking it regardless. I straightened my shoulders, looking out at the sea of faces. Congratulations, class of 2024. Some of us walked this path alone, but today we graduate together, and that is something no absence can diminish. The applause was thunderous now. People I'd never spoken to were cheering. Professors were on their feet. Dr. Harrison had tears streaming down her face. As I returned to my seat, the ovation continued. The university president approached the microphone, visibly moved. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell, for that powerful reminder of what this day truly represents. The ceremony continued, but something had shifted. Strangers approached me afterward, some just to shake my hand, others to whisper, thank you, or that was my story too. Professors who had known me for years looked at me with new understanding. Through it all, my phone remained silent. No calls or texts from my parents. Just a steady stream of notifications as clips of my speech began circulating among the student body, each one tagged with variations of number, this one's for you. The absence I'd addressed so publicly remained unacknowledged by those who had created it. But for the first time, that silence didn't feel like a judgment on my worth. It felt like confirmation of everything I'd said. I checked my phone one more time before joining Marcus and his family for dinner. Still nothing from my parents. But there was a text from Aunt Carol. Just saw your speech online. I've never been more proud. Your grandma is in tears. We've always seen you, Jason. Always. For now, that was enough. 2 hours after graduation, I was sitting at an upscale restaurant near campus with Marcus and his family. They'd reserved a table for 5, refusing to let me beg off. You're being celebrated today, whether you like it or not. Marcus's mother insisted, passing me a gift bag containing a high-quality leather portfolio with my initials embossed on the cover. The warm glow of their genuine happiness for me was a balm, but it couldn't completely erase the ache of my own family's absence. I checked my phone periodically, still nothing from my parents. It was as if my graduation had occurred in an alternate universe, one they didn't inhabit. The restaurant's background noise suddenly seemed to fade as my phone lit up with a barrage of notifications. My speech had been clipped and was spreading across campus social media channels. Comments were flooding in. This hit me in the soul. My parents chose my brother's baseball tournament over my graduation too. I needed to hear this today. Thank you for putting words to what I felt for years. The part about being your own witness made me cry right there in the ceremony. Then came texts and calls from extended family relatives I rarely heard from. My mother's sister, Aunt Jean. Jason, Your speech was extraordinary. I always knew you had that fire in you. My father's brother, Uncle Robert, proud of you, nephew. Reminds me of when I graduated, and your grandfather couldn't be bothered to show up. History repeats, I guess. I was reading these messages feeling a strange mix of vindication and sadness when my phone finally displayed the name I'd been both dreading and waiting for: Rachel. Her text was a single line. What the hell did you just do? Before I could respond, another text followed. Mom is hysterical and Dad is furious. Way to make my day all about you again. I excused myself from the table and stepped outside the restaurant. The California evening was mild, the sky turning deep blue as sunset approached. I called Rachel back instead of texting. She answered immediately. You've really done it this time, she said, her voice shaking. I could hear the sounds of a parking lot and the background car doors slamming, distant voices. Done what exactly? I kept my voice level. Humiliated our entire family. Your speech is all over the internet. Mom's friend Charlotte called her sobbing about how she never knew what a terrible mother Mom was. Dad's business partner texted, asking if everything was okay at home. I'm standing in a restaurant parking lot, watching Mom cry, while Dad tries to figure out what to tell people. The image was so specific I could picture it clearly. My mother's theatrical tears, my father's controlled anger, Rachel caught between them. Always the loyal defender of the family image. I didn't mention any names, Rachel. I didn't say, my parents abandoned me for a spa day. I talked about my experience. Everyone knows who you were talking about. You looked right into the camera. I looked into the camera because I was giving a speech that was being recorded. That's generally how speeches work. Don't get smart with me. Her voice dropped to a furious whisper. Do you know what Mom and Dad have done for you? The sacrifices they've made, and you thank them by publicly shaming them. Something snapped inside me. What sacrifices, Rachel? Name one. Name one time they put me first. One time they showed up for something that mattered to me instead of for you. The silence that followed was telling. That's what I thought, I said quietly. They're your parents. Rachel's voice had turned pleading. They love you. They just connect with me differently. No, Rachel. They just love you more. It's okay. I've made peace with it. That's not true. They're literally saying right now how worried they are about you, how they don't understand why you do this. They're worried about their image, not about me. If they were worried about me, they would have been at my graduation instead of your spa day. The silence stretched again, broken only by the sound of Rachel's uneven breathing. They're going to call you, she finally said. Dad's just trying to calm Mom down first. As if on cue, my phone beeped with an incoming call. My father. They're calling now, I told Rachel. I need to take this. I switched to the incoming call, steeling myself. Hello. What the hell were you thinking? My father's voice was cold with fury. Your mother is beside herself. We've got people calling us, asking if we're okay, wondering what kind of family problems we're having. Dad. No, you listen to me. After everything we've done for you, putting you through Stanford. I had a scholarship, I interrupted. And I worked part-time. You paid for books and some living expenses, which I'm grateful for. Don't interrupt me. His voice rose. This is exactly your problem, Jason. You've always been selfish, always thinking only about yourself. Your sister would never have pulled a stunt like this. The familiar comparison landed like a physical blow, but I stayed steady. You're right. Rachel wouldn't have done this. Rachel wouldn't have needed to. What is that supposed to mean? It means Rachel has never had to wonder if her achievements matter to you. She's never had to wonder if you'll show up. She gets spa days and early graduation presents. I get excuses about being too tired to drive. So, that's what this is about. You're jealous of your sister. Grow up, Jason. This isn't about jealousy. This is about years of being an afterthought in my own family. This is about you and Mom lying to me about why you couldn't come to my graduation. We didn't lie. You were at a spa with Rachel while I was being named valedictorian. Don't insult my intelligence by denying it. It's all over Instagram. A pause. Then we had already promised Rachel. Stop. My voice was firm now. Just stop. You make promises to Rachel that you keep. You make promises to me that you break. That's the pattern. Today just made it impossible to ignore anymore. I heard my mother's voice in the background asking for the phone. There was a rustling sound, and then her tearful voice came through. Jason, honey, how could you do this to us? We've always supported you. We've always been so proud of your accomplishments. From a distance, Mom. You've been proud from a distance. That's not fair. We've always. What always shown up? Always made me feel as valued as Rachel. Always kept your promises to me. Her tears increased. I don't understand why you're being so cruel. We're your parents. We love you. I know you do, Mom. In your way. But love without action is just a word. What do you want from us, Jason? My father had taken the phone back, his voice hard. An apology. Fine. We're sorry we missed your graduation. Happy now. I don't want anything from you anymore, Dad. That's the point. I've stopped expecting things you can't give. My speech wasn't about getting an apology. It was about accepting reality and finding strength in it. Well, there are going to be consequences for this little performance. Family consequences. The threat hung in the air between us. I understand, I said calmly. I'm sorry you see it that way. Is that all you have to say? Yes, I think it is. I ended the call something I'd never done before with my father. It felt like crossing a threshold I couldn't return from. The restaurant door opened behind me, and Marcus stepped out. Everything okay? You've been out here a while. My family finally noticed I graduated, I said with a wry smile. They're not happy about my speech. Screw them, Marcus said bluntly. It needed to be said. My phone buzzed again, more notifications from people I barely knew, expressing support, sharing their own stories of family disappointment. Among them was a message from my cousin Michael. Just saw your speech. I've watched Aunt Linda and Uncle Thomas do this to you for years. About time someone called it out. I hadn't realized other people had noticed. I'd thought the dynamic was invisible to anyone outside our immediate family. As I was about to go back inside, I spotted a familiar figure approaching from the parking lot, Rachel. Her eyes were red, her normally perfect makeup smudged. We need to talk, she said. Alone. Marcus looked at me questioningly. I nodded. It's okay. I'll be in soon. After he disappeared back into the restaurant, Rachel and I stood facing each other in the gathering twilight. They're devastated, she said without preamble. I know. No, you don't know. You don't see what I see. Dad's worried this will affect his client's trust. Mom had to take an anxiety pill. Is that what you wanted? I studied my sister's face. The face that had always received the smiles, the approving looks, the attention I'd craved. What I wanted was parents who treated us equally. What I wanted was for them to care about my graduation as much as they care about your spa days. Rachel flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me something, Rachel? Did you know they told me they were too tired to drive to my graduation? Did you know that when you tagged them in those spa photos? She looked away. Yes. The simple admission hit harder than I expected. I asked them to come to my graduation. Instead, she continued quietly. I told them we could do the spa another day. This was news to me. You did? She nodded still, not meeting my eyes. They said you wouldn't mind. That you were always so independent. That you probably had friends to celebrate with anyway. The justification was so familiar, it almost made me laugh. Independent. The label they'd given me to excuse their absence. Mom said you don't like big celebrations anyway. That you get uncomfortable with too much attention. They said that because it's easier than admitting the truth. Rachel finally looked at me. Which is that they just don't care as much about me. It's okay, Rachel. It's not your fault. That's not true. They do love you. I know they do. Just not the same way they love you. Rachel's eyes filled with fresh tears. I never asked to be the favorite. I know that too. We stood in silence for a moment, 22 years of family dynamics stretching between us like a chasm. What happens now? She finally asked. Are you going to cut them off? Cut us all off. I don't know yet. I need some time to figure that out. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I should go back. They're waiting for me. Of course they were. They always waited for Rachel. Congratulations, by the way, she added awkwardly. On graduating, on the speech, everything. Thank you, I said, and meant it. As she walked away, I felt something shift, not a resolution exactly, but the beginning of one. A crack in the foundation of our family mythology that might eventually let some truth in. I turned and went back to the restaurant where people who had chosen to be present were waiting to celebrate with me. The days following graduation unfolded in unexpected ways. While my family's situation had imploded, my professional life was suddenly accelerating. My speech, particularly the clip where I said, "To everyone who didn't show up, this one's for you," had gone viral beyond the Stanford community. It resonated with a surprisingly large audience, people who had achieved, despite absence, who had found strength in emptiness. My LinkedIn inbox filled with messages from recruiters and executives. One message stood out: an offer from Bennett and Ross, a prestigious consulting firm in New York. They were looking for someone with authentic leadership potential and emotional intelligence. And my speech had caught the attention of their hiring director herself, a Stanford alumna. "We need people who understand resilience from the inside out," her message read, "who can speak truth even when it's uncomfortable. The position starts in August. We'd like to fly you out for a final interview." New York. The opposite coast from Sacramento. The geographical distance appealed to me on a level I wasn't quite ready to examine. I was pondering the offer in my apartment surrounded by half-packed boxes when Marcus stopped by with coffee. "So, New York, that's big." "It's far," I acknowledged. "That's the point, isn't it?" He handed me the coffee. Distance. I didn't deny it. I need space to figure out who I am outside of their narrative. Have they called again? Texts. Emails. My father left a voicemail about working through this as a family. My mother sent flowers. And Rachel. Radio silence since that night at the restaurant. Marcus nodded understanding without needing elaboration. "What are you going to do?" I took a sip of coffee. "I'm going to have dinner with them tomorrow night. One last attempt at something. Not reconciliation exactly, but clarity. Then I'm going to decide about New York." The dinner was set for an upscale restaurant-neutral territory. I arrived first, deliberately choosing a table in the corner for privacy. My parents arrived exactly on time, their faces wearing identical expressions of careful neutrality. "Jason," my mother said, moving as if to hug me, then stopping when she saw my body language. "You look well." "Thanks. So do you." My father nodded stiffly. "Son." We ordered drinks and made painfully awkward small talk about the weather, the restaurant, anything but what we were really there to discuss. Finally, after the waiter took our dinner orders and left, my father cleared his throat. "Your mother and I have been doing some thinking," he began. "We realize we owe you an apology for missing your graduation. It was poor judgment on our part, and we're sorry if it hurt you." The apology was textbook, acknowledging the action, but not the pattern, expressing regret for if I was hurt rather than the fact that I was. I took a slow breath. "Thank you for saying that," I replied carefully. But my speech wasn't about one missed event. It was about a lifetime of feeling secondary. My mother's face crumpled. "We never meant to make you feel that way, Jason. We've always been so proud of you." "I believe that you believe that, Mom. But intentions and impact are different things." My father frowned. "The problem, Jason, is that you've always been so self-sufficient. From the time you were little, you never seemed to need us the way Rachel did." It was the same old justification repackaged as insight. Dad, children shouldn't have to perform neediness to receive attention. I was self-sufficient because I had to be, not because I wanted to be. "That's not fair," my mother protested. "We've always provided for you. We helped with your college expenses. We've supported your goals." Financially, yes, and I'm grateful for that privilege. But emotional support, presence, making me feel like I mattered as much as Rachel, that's been consistently absent. My father's jaw tightened. "So, we're terrible parents. Is that it? We failed you completely." "That's not what I'm saying. You're good parents. To Rachel, to me you've been adequate providers who made it clear through your actions that I was less of a priority. The silence that followed was heavy with decades of unacknowledged truth. What do you want from us now? My father finally asked. What would fix this? The question revealed so much about how little he understood. This isn't something you can fix with one conversation or one gesture, Dad. This is about a pattern that would take real commitment and time to change. We're willing to try, my mother said earnestly. We want to do better. I studied her face, wanting to believe her. Are you willing to go to family therapy, to really examine the dynamics at play here, to hear things that might be painful and take responsibility for them? My father's expression closed immediately. Therapy? That's unnecessary. We can work this out ourselves. And there it was, the limit of their willingness to change, to acknowledge, to grow. I've been offered a position in New York, I said quietly. I'm going to take it. My mother's eyes widened. New York. But that's so far away. We were hoping you'd move back to Sacramento, work at one of the firms here, be close to family. The irony of her suddenly wanting me close after years of emotional distance wasn't lost on me. I need space to figure out who I am outside of this family dynamic. Space to heal. This feels like punishment, my father said flatly. It's not punishment, Dad. It's self-preservation. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of surface conversation and avoided eye contact. They paid the bill, despite my attempt to cover it, a final assertion of parental authority, and we walked to the parking lot together. We'll miss you, my mother said, as we prepared to part ways. Will you let us know when you're settled in New York? Yes, I promised. I'll stay in touch. It wasn't estrangement I was choosing, I realized as I drove back to my apartment. It was boundaries. Distance. Space to become the person I was meant to be, without the constant undertow of seeking approval that would never fully arrive. The following week was a whirlwind of packing paperwork for the new job and finding an apartment in New York through virtual tours. Marcus helped me sort through 4 years of accumulated possessions, deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to discard. Whoa, look at this, he said, pulling out a shoebox from the back of my closet. Ancient history. The box contained family photos, holidays, vacations, school events. I sat on the floor and sifted through them, noting how even in these frozen moments the pattern was visible. Photos where Rachel was centered, my parents beaming at her. Photos where I stood slightly apart or was caught in profile, my parents' attention directed elsewhere. You should take these, Marcus suggested. Not to dwell on the past, but to remember where you came from. How far you've gotten despite it all. I nodded, returning the photos to the box. You're right. A knock at the door interrupted our packing. When I opened it, I found Aunt Carol standing there, a tentative smile on her face. Hope I'm not intruding, she said. I was in the area for a conference and thought I'd stop by. Aunt Carol had always been different from my mother. Warmer, more perceptive, less concerned with appearances. She'd been the one family member who seemed to see me clearly over the years. I saw your speech, she said. Once we were seated in my half-packed living room, it was brave. And long overdue. Mom and Dad don't see it that way. She sighed. They wouldn't. They can't. Why not? Because it would mean confronting patterns that go back generations. She looked at me steadily. Did you know your father was treated the same way by his parents? They favored his older brother Edward in all things. Your father was the afterthought, the one who had to fight for recognition. This was news to me. He never mentioned that. Of course not. He buried it, and then unconsciously recreated it. It's what we do with unhealed wounds, we pass them on. The revelation added a layer of complexity to my understanding. My father's behavior wasn't just about me. It was about his own unresolved pain. That doesn't excuse it, Aunt Carol added, seeing my expression. Understanding isn't the same as accepting. You're right to create distance to break the cycle. I'm moving to New York, I told her. Taking a job there. She nodded approvingly. Good. Build a life on your terms. Define success your way. That's how you heal. Not by getting them to change, but by changing your own relationship with their approval. After she left, I found myself thinking about cycles, how family patterns repeat, unless someone consciously breaks them. How children become parents who recreate the wounds they received. How understanding this didn't lessen the pain, but perhaps offered a path beyond it. That night I wrote 3 letters I didn't intend to send. One to my father, one to my mother, one to Rachel. In each, I expressed what I wished they could understand what I needed, that I never received, and what I hoped might be possible in the future. It wasn't about assigning blame anymore, but about articulating truth. About claiming my experience as valid, regardless of whether they ever acknowledged it. When I finished writing, I felt lighter somehow. I sealed the letters and packed them away. Maybe someday I'd send them. Maybe not. What mattered was that I'd finally given voice to my complete truth, even if only for myself. My last night in California, I stood on the balcony of my apartment, looking at the stars. Tomorrow, I would board a plane to New York, to a new job, a new apartment, a new chapter. I wasn't running away. I was moving toward something. Toward a version of myself unbound by family expectations and limitations. Toward a life where my value wasn't determined by anyone's recognition, but my own. For the first time in as long as I could remember, the future felt wide open. Uncertain, yes. Challenging, definitely. But mine to shape according to my own truth. That was worth any amount of difficult family conversations. Any number of painful revelations. It was worth everything. 1 year can change everything. Sitting in my corner office on the 28th floor of a Manhattan skyscraper, I barely recognized the uncertain graduate who had boarded that plane 12 months ago. New York had shaped me in ways I couldn't have anticipated, hardening some edges, softening others, expanding my vision of what was possible. Bennett and Ross had thrown me into the deep end immediately. My first project involved restructuring a struggling tech company's organizational culture. Ironic given my own family's dysfunctional dynamics. Perhaps that's why I excelled at it. I could spot unhealthy patterns from a mile away, could identify where communication broke down, and people felt unheard. My personal life had flourished too. I'd found an apartment in Brooklyn with character and history. I'd made friends who knew nothing about my family background, who accepted me exactly as I was. I'd even started dating Sarah, a brilliant architect with her own complicated family story. We understood each other's boundaries without needing to explain them. My relationship with my family had evolved into something I could manage. I spoke to my parents once a month, brief, cordial conversations that stayed firmly on the surface. I sent birthday and holiday gifts. I responded to texts within a reasonable time frame, all on my terms with clear boundaries. My mother had tried to visit 3 months after I moved to help you decorate your apartment, honey, but I gently deferred, explaining that I needed this time to establish myself independently. She'd been hurt but had respected the boundary. Progress of a sort. Rachel and I had developed a tentative text relationship, mostly sharing funny videos or commenting on shared interests. Neither of us mentioned our parents or the rift. It was minimal, but it was authentic in a way our previous interactions hadn't been. I was in the middle of a presentation to senior partners when my phone vibrated repeatedly in my pocket. Normally I would have ignored it, but the persistence suggested an emergency. I excused myself briefly to check. Multiple notifications from LinkedIn, Twitter industry newsletters, all referencing the same thing. An article I'd written about psychological safety in workplace cultures had gone viral after being shared by a prominent business leader. The piece drew partly on research, partly on my own experiences with feeling unseen and unheard in my family system. I apologized to the partners and returned to my presentation, but by the end of the day, my inbox was flooded. Interview requests, speaking invitations, a book proposal from a publisher. Apparently, I'd struck a nerve. My phone rang as I was leaving the office. My father. "Jason," he said, when I answered his voice, straining for casualness. "Your mother and I just saw the Forbes article about your work. Very impressive." "Thank you," I replied, stepping onto the crowded sidewalk. It was unexpected. "We always knew you'd do well," he continued. "You've always been so driven, so focused." The familiar rewriting of history my independence now recast as admirable drive, my emotional neglect transformed into giving me space to flourish. Once this revisionism would have infuriated me. Now I recognized it as his limitation, not mine. We were thinking he pressed on when I didn't respond that we might come visit. See your new office. Your apartment. Make a weekend of it. And there it was. Success had made me interesting again. Achievement had earned me their attention, just as it always had. Only now, I no longer needed it. That's something we can discuss, I said neutrally. Right now isn't the best timing with this project taking off. Let me look at my schedule and get back to you. After we hung up, I stood watching the New York crowd flow around me. My parents wanted to visit now that I'd achieved national recognition. A year ago, that would have felt like validation. Today, it just felt like an observation about who they were, not who I was. That evening, I had a video call scheduled with Rachel. Unlike the superficial text exchanges, this would be our first real conversation in months. I wasn't sure what prompted her request, but I'd agreed, curious about where we stood. Her face appeared on my screen, familiar yet somehow different, more mature, less perfectly put together than I remembered. "Hey," she said, smiling tentatively. "Nice office." "Thanks. How's the design program going?" I kit. The simple statement hung between us. Rachel quitting fashion design. The golden path our parents had celebrated for years. "What happened?" I asked carefully. She looked away from the camera. "After everything with your graduation, I started noticing things. How Mom and Dad always pushed the fashion angle. How they bragged about my creativity to their friends. How they'd been planning my career since I was 12. And I realized I never actually chose it for myself. I just went along with what made them happy." Her eyes met mine through the screen. "Like I went along with the spa day on your graduation. Like I went along with so many things, because it was easier than disappointing them." The revelation shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Rachel had always seemed so comfortable in her role as the favorite, so natural in accepting the attention and advantages it brought. "What are you doing now?" I asked. "I transferred to the business program. I want to open my own boutique someday, but on my terms. Design is still part of it, but not the way they imagined." She hesitated. "They're not happy about it." "I can imagine. They keep saying I'm throwing away my talent, that I'm being influenced by outside forces." She gave a wry smile. "They mean you, by the way." I gathered. "The thing is, Jason, I think they're terrified of losing control, of us making choices they can't take credit for or show off to their friends." She leaned closer to the camera. "I never saw it before. How it was always about them, not about us." The insight surprised me coming from Rachel, who had benefited from the dynamic I'd struggled against. But perhaps being the golden child came with its own invisible chains. "I owe you an apology," she continued, "for not seeing sooner, for participating in the pattern, for believing it was normal. You were a kid, Rachel. We both were. We didn't create the dynamic." "No, but I could have questioned it earlier. I could have been a better sister." Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I'm trying to do that now, if you'll let me." It was a beginning, fragile, uncertain, but real. "I'd like that," I said simply. After our call, I sat looking out at the Brooklyn skyline, thinking about cycles broken and relationships transformed. About how healing rarely happens all at once, but in small moments of truth and recognition. A week later, I received an invitation to speak at a Stanford alumni event about workplace culture. As I prepared my remarks, I found myself reflecting on how much had changed in a year and how much hadn't. My parents still struggled to see me clearly. I still carried wounds from years of emotional neglect. But the difference was that I no longer looked to them for validation. I no longer needed their recognition to feel accomplished. The real shift wasn't in them, it was in me. On the day of the event, I arrived early to find a nervous student waiting to speak with me. He introduced himself as Alex, a first-generation college student who had read my article and watched my graduation speech online. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said, his voice slightly unsteady. "My parents, they don't really get what I'm doing here. They think college is a waste of time. They never come to campus. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing all this for nothing." I recognized in him the same hunger for recognition I'd once felt. The same doubt about whether achievements mattered, if no one witnessed them? It's not for nothing, I told him. It's for you. For the life you're building, the person you're becoming. But how do you do it, he asked. How do you keep going when the people who are supposed to care the most don't? It was the question I'd been answering for myself all year. You find the people who do see you. You create a family of choice. And you learn that the most important witness to your life is you. As I took the podium later that evening, I saw Alex in the audience listening intently. I saw other students whose stories I didn't know but could imagine. I saw reflections of my younger self searching for validation in all the wrong places. Some people will never show up for you the way you deserve, I told them. The real graduation is learning to show up for yourself and then extending that gift to others who need it most. After the applause died down and the networking began, I checked my phone to find a text from Rachel. Watched your speech online. Proud of you, bro. Really proud. It wasn't my parents' approval. It wasn't the full family healing I'd once craved. But it was something authentic, a genuine connection based on who we actually were, not who our parents needed us to be. And for now, that was enough. More than enough. It was a foundation for something new. Thanks for watching this far into my story. If you've ever dealt with family members who couldn't see your worth, I hope this gave you some comfort knowing you're not alone. Have you ever had to create distance from family to find yourself? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the most healing message is simply knowing that someone else understands your journey. Until next time, remember your worth isn't determined by who shows up. It's determined by how you show up for yourself.